Hey, so this is Scott Lemke from Hauling Moon Software. I'm going to talk about some of the new features in Chipmunk 6.1. So one of the probably the most useful features is convex hulls. I've had a implementation of quick hull sitting around for kind of forever, and one of the biggest problems people have with Chipmunk for quite a while is that the creating polygon shapes for things, because you have to specify the vertexes with the correct winding, and they got to be convex. So if you use this function to help you out, you never have a problem with that again. It's pretty fast, so you don't really need to worry about the overhead of calling it, and it's only happening when you create the objects anyway. So you can call this convex hull thing, and it'll make your shapes correct for you. And I've got a little demo to show that off. Let's see, I think it's you. So if I right click, it'll add wherever the mouse is to the shape, and I'm updating the mass properties and like the moment of inertia and whatnot too, so it'll fall over, and I can drag it around to do it, and it's always creating a correct convex hull for this shape as I do it, no matter where I go or where I'm adding the point, or if I'm clicking inside even, it knows not to add those points. So that'll be pretty handy, I think, for a lot of people. Next up is nearest point queries. Let's go here. So previously, Chipmunk's point queries were, infinitely small point that it would query at. This worked great for a mouse where you have really, detailed control and you can click exactly where you want to. It doesn't work so well on touchscreens where you're using like your big fat finger. So basically, like the nearest point queries also allow you to have a radius around the point. So, it'll find all objects within that radius, and it'll even find the closest points on those shaped surfaces, which is pretty handy as well. So if I open up okay, yep, here it is. So the green line is the raycast, kind of ignore that one. That little gray line, that's the one we're interested in. That's always showing the closest point to any shape. So as I move around, you'll see it'll jump from shape to shape. It's actually telling you what the closest shape is within 100 pixels. That's pretty useful, and it actually even works inside of shapes. So if I move this, as I'm going around inside, it still shows you the closest point on the surface of whatever shape you're doing. So that can help you figure out which way to go to get out of a shape if you're inside of one. You can use that to complement raycasting type stuff pretty well. Let's see, next up is blocks. So Chipmunk's iterators have traditionally been function-based because it works with any C compiler. It does make for a little annoying code, like this each arbiter iterator, for instance, in the contact graph demo. It's passing a pointer to this vector here to a function up here, where it's just adding up the impulses that are applied to a specific body. It's a little annoying, and it gets even more annoying when you pass more interesting structures for this context. Like inside a Chipmunk, if I open up like one of the query things, I often define these contexts. And then have to initialize them with a bunch of data and then pass them into a function. And then inside that function, I've got to go unpack context group, context layers. It's kind of annoying. I don't really like doing it either. I've always been trying to encourage people to use blocks if they're on iOS or OS 10, where the compiler supports them. So I was going to write up a tutorial on how to use blocks, and then I just decided, I might as well just make this an official part of the API. So if your compiler supports blocks, you'll get these additional functions like arbiter each block, or CP space each shape, or each body. And they all take a block that you can pass. And it makes it a lot simpler. Like for here, when I want to do the impulse sum, I've got all the code that I need right there, instead of scattering it around another function that's up here somewhere. So that's all pretty convenient, and I think that'll simplify a lot of people's lives when they want to do these simple one-line functions where they're using an iterator for something. And I think that's all the big features. If you want to know more information, make sure to check out the version log. and hope to see you next version.